What shall I do with Mr. Holmes's breakfast?
Isn't he up yet?
Ain't no sign of him. Hasn't even took in his shaving water. I do wish he'd be a bit more regular in his habits. Meals at all times of the day does turn a house upside down.
But you know, Mrs. Hudson, you always insist on keeping his meals for him. He never asks.
Yes, but the poor man must eat sometimes. If I didn't see that he had a bite now and again, it'd have been in his grave years ago.
I should go and bang on his door.
Yes, sir. But sometimes when he's thinking out his problems, he's that cross when he's disturbed.
He won't be this morning. He's rather good-tempered. And he doesn't want any breakfast.
No, Mr. Holmes, you did give me a turn.
Well, one good turn deserves another. What can I do for you?
Some breakfast, sir.
Oh, I've already breakfasted with the manager of the London and Commercial Bank.
Oh, so they've sent for you for this?
Are you sure I can't tempt you to a nice bit of attic?
My dear Mrs. Hudson, you've always been a temptation to me, but attic, after a good breakfast, is not.
No, you do carry on. It's a good job I don't take you serious.
I'm perfectly serious. Jokes are not my strong point. Ask the doctor. I never see any of his.
No.
I've been wondering, my dear Watson, why you don't get the batteries of your car recharged.
What do you mean?
You had great difficulty in getting your car to start last night. The batteries are run down.
They are, but how did you know?
You've a blister at the base of your fingers on the right hand. As you've not been sculling on the serpentine this morning, I deduced that you've been cranking your car.
That's rather wonderful.
That's elementary, my dear Watson. Elementary. Oh, let me give you a hand.
Thank you, sir.
Can you lift that?
Yes.
And the cloth on the top, that's
Yes,
good.
please.
There you are.
Thank you. You sure there's nothing else I can do for you?
No, nothing, thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Let me give you a hand.
Why have they sent for you about this? It's perfectly simple. A man tries to burgle a bank, is disturbed, kills the watchman and runs away.
I find it very interesting. Have you ever heard of Professor Robert Moriarty?
No. What's he got to do with it?
Oh, he's to do with half the crimes the world over. He started as a mathematical professor, but ugly rumors gathered round him, and he resigned. So after that, he vanished for 10 years or so. I fancy he went abroad. Then he returned to England, and things began to happen.
What thing?
For a long time, I've been conscious of some power, a deep organization which stands in the way of the law. Once he made a slip, and I was able to deduce that behind that power was Moriarty. But he recovered himself, and I could prove nothing. He has hundreds of agents, none of whom have ever seen him. Sometimes an agent is caught. But the man who plans most of the crimes that are committed is never caught, never even suspected. He knows that I know of his activity. He also knows that up to now, I've been unable to reach him.
And you think he's connected with this bank murder?
I think it highly probable. Yes? Yes, come in.
Inspector Lestrade to see you,
Oh,
sir.
Lestrade. Anything fresh?
No, Mr. Holmes?
Sit down, Lestrade.
Thank you. I just came in to get that piece of brown paper.
Oh, yes, this little piece. You mean, I should like to keep it a little longer, if I may. I haven't yet decided what the rest of the label is.
Well, I don't see how you ever can. It's just an ordinary shopkeeper's label. There's not enough of it to tell us anything.
Well, I disagree, my dear Lestrade. But then, you and I so often disagree.
Oh, come, Mr. Holmes. I've a great respect for your theories. It's only when you begin about this Professor Moriarty.
Yeah, you don't believe in him.
I ask you, is it possible for a man to plan half the crime in this country without the Yard knowing who he is, where he lives, or anything about him?
It does seem rather strange. I mean, the man can't live nowhere, never be seen by anyone.
Of course. Well, lots of people know him, but they don't know that he's Moriarty. You yourself may know him.
Jokes are not your strong point, Holmes.
No, I'm perfectly serious. He has 100 disguises and 100 aliases. And I'm pretty certain he had a hand in this bank robbery.
But it wasn't a robbery. The thief got nothing. He broke into the bank and...
Have you ever tried to break into a bank, Lester?
Me?
No, I thought not. But do you seriously think it possible for one man to break into a bank without using anything short of dynamite?
There were no signs of a forced entry.
Which might point to the fact of his having an accomplice. Or even two. He got inside.
Which doesn't necessarily mean you're Professor. The man was interrupted by the watchman, killed him, got frightened and bolted.
And yet, inside the safe, we found this piece of brown paper. 3 people swear it was not there when the safe was shut last night.
Then he was inside when he was disturbed.
Or before he went inside. He had this paper wrapped round something. You'll observe that this end here is slightly torn and there is a blood stain on it. I therefore deduce that the struggle with the watchman took place first, and he then took his parcel into the safe.
Oh, it won't work, Mr. Holmes. It won't work. There was £70,000 of note in the vault. Not one of them is missing.
How true. How true. But if you remember, a fortnight ago, an almost similar thing occurred in Berlin.
In Berlin?
Yes. You should read your Berliner Tageblatt, my dear Lestrade. The strong room of the Reichsbank was entered. The watchman was laid out, happily not killed, and nothing was removed.
Very strange, Mr. Holmes. Very strange indeed. It looks almost as if there was a connection. I should like time to think it out a bit. When can I have that piece of brown paper?
I'll let you have it this evening. In the meantime, would you be good enough to warn all foreign customs officials to be on the lookout for a very large quantity of English banknotes which will be smuggled through in ordinary luggage?
What do you think?
I think it would be a wise precaution.
Very good, Mr. Holmes. I'll get back to the yard now and put the matter in hand. Good morning, gentlemen.
The chief has arrived, sir.
Oh? What are his orders?
He will interview Mr. Adair himself.
Right. Send Mr. Adair in. What the devil's the meaning of this? Adair. Adair.
My God, am I drunk or what?
I hope not at 10 o'clock in the morning.
What's all this about? I was seized in a car, blindfolded, and driven half round London.
I apologize for that. It was just a slight precaution. And you must forgive me concealing my identity behind the sleeping cardinal. Please sit down.
Are you Mr. Clink? Mr. Otto Clink?
No. Poor Otto Clink must have been dead a good many years.
What the devil's the meaning of this?
Only that I have a slight favor to ask of you, Mr. Adair.
Favor? Who are you, anyway?
I understand that you are leaving on the Golden Arrow at 11 o'clock tomorrow for Paris.
And if I am?
You are going on Foreign Office business, and you will have a laissez-passer, which means that your luggage will not be examined by the customs. I want you to take a suitcase to Paris for me.
I'll do nothing of the kind. Why should I?
Because you can't help yourself.
Don't be ridiculous.
Sit down, Adair.
You go to hell.
Sit down. You have been cheating at cards.
What?
I repeat, you have been cheating at cards. I should have warned you that this picture is painted on steel. Sit down. All your life you have been interested in sleight of hand. Your trick of palming a whole pack of cards has been very useful to you, since your trustee absconded and left you and your sister penniless.
It's a lie.
You have taken to playing bridge for very high stakes. When you deal, you simply change the pack after it has been cut to you. You have a carefully prepared pack in the palm of your hand. You do the same when you cut a pack to your opponent. Now, this procedure, if publicly known, is not likely to lead to an advancement either social or diplomatic. In fact, it means the end of you.
Who's been telling you this ridiculous story?
Last night you made a slip. You dropped the ace of spades. Now I think I can count on your doing me this very slight service.
Go on.
A suitcase bearing your initials will be delivered at your flat at 9:30 this evening. You will pass it through the customs with your other luggage. I understand you have engaged a room at the Bristol in Paris. You will take your luggage there, and by 10 o'clock tomorrow night, the suitcase will have vanished from your room. You will make no comment.
What's in this precious suitcase?
That does not concern you.
Yes, but it might be anything. Stolen jewels, bombs, heaven knows what. No, I'll be damned if I'll be made use of in this way.
I feel sure that you will change your mind. In the event of your not doing so, you will find the only alternative in the box on the table.
What do you mean? Here. Come back, whoever you are. What do you mean? The only alternative. Oh, my God.
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to see how many Bank of England notes will go into a parcel of this size. You see, my dear Watson, that this note should fit into these creases. There you are, as I thought exactly. Here. Were you busy this morning, Watson?
No, I kept the morning free. I rather hoped you'd see Kathleen Adair.
She's due here now. I sent her a note on the way home from the bank.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Then you will have a talk to Ronnie.
No, I want to talk about him. He's in the diplomatic service, isn't he?
Yes. And what's that got to do with it?
What's what got to do with what, Watson?
Come in.
Mr. Dare to see you, sir. How wonderful of you to have managed it. It's terribly kind of you to see me.
Not at all. Won't you sit down? The Watsons told me how worried you are about your brother, but I don't quite see what I can do.
I've been wondering if you could find out if it's really true. If it is, and I can't believe that it is, perhaps you could frighten him into giving up.
With whom does he play as a rule?
Well, last night there was Tony Rutherford, old Mr. Fisher.
What, Thomas Fisher, the millionaire?
Yes, and Colonel Henslow, an old friend of ours.
Mm-hmm. Fisher, I wonder... Forgive me, Miss Adair, but does your brother